Let's get it going here. So we're on the second part of supply and demand. All right. Let me move these boxes around here. All right. So second part of supply and demand here today. All right. So Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 11:45. If you need to come to target time, or you can just send me messages. A lot of this stuff for econ you can do by sending me messages on things that you're missing or not understanding or whatever. I do put feedback on a lot of the stuff. So when you've goofed up or you used a source you weren't supposed to on a quiz or something like that, I put that on there and kind of tell you what you need to do to fix that. Um, I'll be checking my Canvas inbox daily and my email. With students in class, I send mostly stuff through Canvas. If it's a more general, bigger email, then I might send that on email, and then I would probably send the same one to students and parents in that case. Right. I send the text with the grade updates and the missing work, which I'm sure you've probably seen or your parents have seen on Mondays. And then if there's missing assignments, zeros, etc., I'll send messages through Canvas through that. Okay. Um, so what we're doing this week is looking at supply and demand. There's a couple of different standards on this, and determining how changes in market conditions affect prices. And so today we're going to finish up on supply and then talk about market equilibrium, which basically is we're going to learn today kind of the idea of how the prices are set. Like, how do we end up with the prices where they are? Right. So we had a couple of ed puzzles this week, or already. We actually have four. They're four short ed puzzles. And then we got one longer ed minimum tutorial. Please notice that I actually, because I felt like some people were not getting the picture, I went back this week and I made the ed minimum weights 20 points on the quiz and 40 points on doing the work on the tutorial and doing it right. Okay. So I'm really big on you doing your work and doing it right. All right. That's to me is you're gaining wisdom, and that is just the right thing to do. Okay. It is more work for me to have to go check and make sure you did it and that you didn't put some doo-doo answers on there. But I'm trying to teach you be the kind of students you need to be. All right. And do what is right. Show the fortitude, the self-discipline to do the things you need to do. All right. So I started putting that as more and more points so that people could understand I'm very serious about you actually doing your work. I did give you the guided notes in case you need them, because those could be very useful. So you can use, say, the Ed Minimum tutorial, right? And what I've taught on live lessons, that's what you can use on the quiz. You can't use Google, right? Stuff, and you can't use AI generated stuff. So I had a bunch of people last week who lost a whole bunch of points in their quiz because they were clearly using outside sources. And I don't necessarily need to tell you right here how I figured that out, but I know. Okay, I got there's ways that in which teachers can tell stuff with Canvas, with particularly what you're doing when you're on your quiz. And so, yeah, you can use the Ed Minimum tutorials. You can use the live lessons. Okay. And then I got a couple more ed puzzles today. Now, I put a bunch of practice quizzes on supply and demand out there, and then some more interactive ones that I didn't put on the checklist that are on the module. And so, what you will need to know is that the quiz that we have this Friday will be a lot of applications of supply and demand. And you're going to want to go in and practice those things till you get the hang of what they're asking. So I gave you lots of practice quiz type material that will help you to get ready for it. So you'll know that once you can do all of these things, that you can make a good grade on this quiz. Okay. So the one Friday doesn't have essays on it, but that doesn't mean it's easier. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about supply and demand when different things happen, in the concept of equilibrium and what causes surpluses and shortages, and then one more concept of elastic and inelastic prices. Okay, so I finished up with this one last time, all right, with the supply sort of chart. Okay, so what goes on is if the cost to produce something or the cost of resources goes down, the cost to produce it goes down, so there will be more supply. So the supply curve shifts right. If the cost of the resource rises, then there'll be less supply, and there's going to be less supply, right? Same with productivity. If productivity, all right, basically decreases, that means it's costing you more to produce, less supply. Supply curve moves left. All right, and all these going down through there. I'm not going to read the whole thing again. You've got the slides, you can look back over them. And we're going to what we're going to start with here is some of the applications here and knowing the kinds of things you have to be able to do with this. Okay. So again, supply here means what is being supplied, how much is being produced. Okay. So for example, all right, the supply curve. If you have the government of a certain country, we call Pago Pagal in this example, adds a subsidy. Subsidies means the government's paying some money towards producing something. What's going to happen to supply? Well, then that encourages people to produce it more. Okay, so what's going to happen then is that the supply curve is going to move right. Okay, so that's going to be an encouragement from the government to produce this thing more, is going to move the supply curve to the right. For example, there is like a certain price floor on corn in the United States. So more people grow corn because they know the government will buy it from them if they don't sell it for a higher price. Right? So Boomerang, remember, was the thing that they were selling in this little country. Boomerang producers also produce Frisbees. The price of Frisbees goes up. So if the price of Frisbees go up, right, then people are going to produce more Frisbees, right? So if they produce more Frisbees, they're also producing less Boomerangs. So if there's basically, let's see, I don't know if there's an example on this one on here. And yeah, I think that one doesn't quite fit with either of those. But the idea being that if the other thing that you could make gets more expensive, you can make more money doing that. You're going to do the other thing instead of the first thing. Okay. So there'll be less supply of the boomerangs. All right. Now, if they tax to boomerangs, right? So if the government's taxing it more, then you're making less money off of it. If you're making less money, then you'll produce less of them. Okay. So again, what you got to be thinking is if you're going to make less money off of a thing, you're going to produce it less. So that means the supply is going down. Okay. So that's why it's going over here. So you produce less, right? You're making less money, right? So you're going to produce less of those things, right? So if you expect that there will be an increase in popularity of boomerangs, then you think more people are going to buy them. If you think more people are going to buy them, then you're going to make more, right? That being the idea. So you see how the supply curve moved this way, meaning that at the same price right here, you would produce more of that thing than you would before because you expect to be able to sell more of them. Okay. All right. The price of plastic, which is a big thing that you have to use an input in boomerang production, increases. Okay. So the way you have to think through this one is it's going to cost more to make the thing. So if it costs more to make the thing, all other things being equal, you will make less money. If you make less money, you're not going to want to make it as much. So the supply curve moves left, meaning that at the same price, you will produce less of those things. Okay. Next, Pago Pagan workers are introduced to coffee as Pago Paga becomes integrated into the world market, meaning they start trading, they get coffee. Coffee makes you do things better, right? So their productivity goes up. So they're working faster. They're making more things. They're making more money. So they're going to want to make more, right? So that's the supply curve moving right. Right. So basically, markets bring buyers and sellers together. Okay. And supply and demand are going to work together to establish prices. So basically, the prices on things determine whether you're going to buy it or not. Right. So the suppliers, the demand, right? We're the consumers, we're the demand side. Okay. So the way the prices are set is people will charge what people will pay for it. Right. Okay. So it's kind of like this, right? You can combine the supply and demand schedules, right? At this price, people will buy this many of this thing, right? Whatever that thing is, okay? All right. At this price, people are willing to supply this many of it, okay? So, for example, at $5 per thing, all right, people are willing to make 10 of those things, but people are only willing to buy two of them. So that's no good. You have a surplus, you have extra. On the other hand, for $1, people want a whole bunch of them, but you're not willing to make them because you're not making any money. That's the example I gave last time of like Chick-fil-A sandwiches. You don't charge $20 for a Chick-fil-A sandwich because no one's going to buy it, but you would make them for that. On the other hand, you don't charge $1 for a Chick-fil-A sandwich because everybody would buy it, but you wouldn't make any money. So you're not going to do it. Right. So the idea here is the prices. So here's the demand curve, right? The one from last time. Here's the supply curve. Okay. So what you'll notice is that there's a kind of a magic point right here, which is this point right here. Okay. So this is where they equal, right? Okay. So where they equal is going to be what's called the point of equilibrium. Okay. So that's a fancy sounding word, but like think equilibrium. Okay. So this point right here, where the supply and the demand meet, that's where the price is going to end up being. Okay. Is where the supply and the demand meet together. Okay. Now things can happen to change where that meets, but in general, that's the whole concept of economics is the price is going to be set based on what the value of that thing is. Okay. So let's think through some things that happen here. Okay. So a surplus is the amount by which the quantity supplied is higher than the quantity demanded. So if you got a surplus, the price is too high. At that price, people won't buy the thing. And so then the surplus won't last because the price will lower. Okay. So example, think about if you went to, today's the day after Halloween. If you went to the store today and you looked at the Halloween candy, you would find that the Halloween candy is probably 50% off. So after less than a day, if you want some Halloween candy, you go buy it because it's going to be half off. Okay. And now is also a great time to buy Halloween costumes. Why? Because now there's a surplus. They got extra ones they can't get rid of. So what are they going to do? They're going to lower the price. So the idea is here that the demand at a certain price for Halloween stuff is way down here now. So then you got all this supply. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to lower that down, right? We're going to got to do something with the prices to make it meet the supply and the demand. That's the whole idea is that if the people are buying it a lot, the price will raise. If people aren't buying it, the price will go down. Okay. So the idea is here, the surplus, okay, is the part that's between the two dots. So right here, you at $4 on this certain thing that's being sold, all right, there the amount that is demanded, the quantity demanded is only 4. You notice that right there. It's at 4. Okay. But the amount being supplied on there is going to be 8 at that price. So there is a surplus of 4. Why? Because 8 right here, notice this right here, 8 minus 4 is the surplus because it's the distance between the quantity supplied and quantity demanded at the price of $4. Okay, so that's all there is to that, the amount of surplus. So if that happens, then the price needs to lower so that they can get rid of those extra things that have been produced. Okay, as I said, that's an example of what's going to happen with the Halloween stuff today. All right, now on the other hand, that there's a shortage when you're down here. Okay, so that's the next thing we'll look at. Let me get my eraser. Okay, so the next part here, all right, is going to be a shortage, okay, which is the amount by which the quantity demanded of what people would want to, buy of something is not being met because people aren't supplying that much. So if you had a big shortage on something, that means your price is too low. So at that price, right, suppliers aren't supplying all the product consumers are willing to buy. And so a shortage won't last because the sellers will raise their price to meet that. Okay. So in this example right here, okay, this is just showing you how these work. Okay. So on this one, the quantity supplied at $2 is what is that, like 2? Okay. And actually, no, the quantity supplied is 4 there. And the quantity demanded on this curve right here, right, is going to be 8. So the shortage on this right here is that there's a demand for 4 more, right, at that price of $2 than there is being supplied. So what they need to do is raise the price for $3 because people will still buy 6 of those, and the people will want to produce or supply 2 more. Okay, so the idea is that when there's a shortage, you raise prices and you'll meet that gap right there. Okay, which is also why when, for example, if I say, well, they charge too much for chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A, well, clearly they don't, because everybody buys them almost, right? And so the deal is, I am not going to buy them at that price, perhaps, but somebody else will. So the price is not too high. Okay, so the equilibrium is being met there because they're making money and people are buying. Okay, so that's how we know that. Okay, so again, shortage is going to be when there is not enough being made for the demand that's out there, meaning that price needs to raise. Okay. All right. So supply and demand at work. All right. So when you're not restricting what the prices are, the idea of our economy is, and this is true. Okay. So regardless of how you feel about market capitalist economies versus more government control, more over a little bit towards socialism kind of thing, the supply and demand is the way prices are set in our country. Okay, it just is. So the equilibrium price where the supply and demand meets, that is the price that is set. Okay, and as that changes over time, the price goes up and down. Okay, so once the market price reaches the equilibrium, it will stay there until the supply or demand changes. Okay, and then you have a surplus or a shortage, and then they'll adjust the price to the new equilibrium price. So, for example, this is kind of crazy, but like if you take some old technology like a VCR, y'all might not even know what that is, but it's played these video things back in the 80s. And I saw on some reading I was doing for a history class that VCR things used to be like, several $100s. Okay. Because there was this huge quantity demanded for those things. And so then they were able to charge a big amount of money for those because the quantity demanded was very high. That curve is way over here. But as more technology came on, the price of those things went way down. Why? Because the demand went way down. The demand curve moved. Okay, so that's what we're talking about there. All right. So on this particular example here, all right, the price is $3 on this particular thing. Okay, that's what it's saying is that's the equilibrium price because there's 6 produced and 6 sold. So there's not a surplus up here, right? There's no gap between them like that, and there's no shortage right here. So that's the equilibrium price is where the supply and the demand meet up. Okay, that's kind of the key concept. All right, now this next part is I got some of this stuff off of North Carolina economics website. So this is Chapel Hill, North Carolina. All right, supply and demand for purple ties. It's absurd, but we're just kind of follow the example. Okay, so North Carolina basketball team lost in the NCAA tournament. Okay, for some reason, then less people are coming into town or something, so they're making less money. So if the income of the people goes down, the demand for goods is going to go down in general. Why? Because people have less money, they spend less money. So what's happened here, you see the demand, then the D1 means the next one, right? So the demand went from demand, so it's like demand 0, right, original, to demand 1. Okay, so the demand went down because people have less money. Okay, so demand for goods goes down. Therefore, the price, whatever it was right here, that was the equilibrium price. Now, since demand has gone down, the equilibrium price has to go down also, even though the supply is basically the same. Okay, so the price would go down because the demand went down. Okay, that's the kind of things that are going to be on the quiz on Friday, right? Is you got this happens, so what's going to happen to the supply or the demand and the price? Okay, that's the kind of thing why I'm telling you that you need to do a bunch of practice to get the hang of it. Okay. All right, so we'll take Chapel Hill's name one of the most beautiful towns in North Carolina, and tourism doubles. So more people come, so there's more income. So if there's more income coming in, right? Then there will be more demand. So the demand curve moves. Therefore, right, what's going to happen here is that so the quantity demanded is going to increase. So therefore, the price is going to increase to here. Okay, so the price goes up because the quantity demanded or the demand curve has moved. Okay. All right, next one. The price of blue ties decreases. So supposing that blue ties are a substitute um, for purple ties. Okay. So if a substitute for this thing, the price goes down, then people are going to buy that thing instead. Okay. So, like, for example, let's say instead of purple ties, if you liked ice cream and shaved ice and you go to Ingles and ice cream is not on sale and shaved ice is on sale, you might buy shaved ice. So the idea would be the demand for the ice cream would go down. So if there's something else that's a similar product, right, that becomes cheaper, then you will buy that product instead. So therefore, the demand for the other product will actually go down. That's why the whole curve moved here. So the demand for ice cream went down. So then the price for ice cream, right, will have to decrease to match the lower demand. Okay, so that's how we end up with the lower prices sometimes. All right, so the federal government has been warning the public about the possibility of a recession and job loss in the area, right? So that's you're expecting that people are going to lose their jobs. If you're expecting people are going to lose their jobs, then demand goes down because people are afraid of losing their job. They won't spend their money. So therefore, the demand for whatever product, purple ties or ice cream or whatever, is going to go down, which means that then the equilibrium price also has to go down, right? The price that is set in order to meet the new demand here. Okay. All right, so that's that one. All right. The price of purple striped shirts decreases. So the idea being that this shirt and the tie, they go together, right? So if you can get the shirt for cheaper, then maybe you're going to want to buy the tie too. So the demand for the tie goes up because of some other complementary good that goes with it gets cheaper. Okay. So then the equilibrium price. So if the demand goes up because the complement good was cheaper, then the equilibrium price will go up. So, for example, if peanut butter is on sale this week, and so people buy more peanut butter, then that means people are going to want to buy more jelly, even at the same price. Why? Because now they can get their peanut butter cheaper. So that's where at this price right here, okay, more people are going to be buying peanut butter at the same price because jelly because peanut butter was cheaper too. Now more people are going to buy jelly at the same price because they save money on their peanut butter. Okay. So that's how the price of the one good affects how much of the other one is going to be bought. Okay. So the new price here, right, is going to be able to be higher for the second thing. Okay. All right. The price of silk increases. Okay, so ties are made from silk. Okay, so in that particular case, all right, ties are made from silk. All right, so the price of making the tie is going to go up. All right, and so the price of inputs goes up. The supply is going to go down, right, because it costs more to make it. All right, and so if the supply goes down, then watch where that matches on the demand curve, right? So the quantity demanded, right, at this price is actually going to be lower, right, because the supply is moved up over here, or actually the quantity demanded is going to be lower and the price is going to be higher, right, because the supply is actually moved over, right? People are going to want less of them in the long run because they cost more money, right? And then we're about done with these because I know these examples are super boring, but I did need to explain them to you. All right. So what's going to happen if somebody releases a jazz flute album? All right. This is kind of crazy. Purple tie producers are expecting a huge increase in demand. I don't even understand what they're talking about here. The idea is that something happens. So people are expecting an increase in demand. so that price will go up. So if you think more people are going to want your thing that you're making, you think, oh, more people are about to buy that thing, so I'm going to make more of that thing. That's what it's saying. Okay. So then I'll make more of that because I think I can make more money off of it. All right. So then that means your supply goes up here. If demand stays the same, then the price would have to drop. But the idea would be that you're expecting the demand curve to move too. So you go ahead and increase your supply. Okay. So like when COVID happened and everybody started making face masks, right? They made all these masks. Well, then what happens when people stop wearing masks? Then they start basically giving away these masks and hand sanitizer because they'd made all that stuff and now they can't get rid of it. Okay, so then they had to lower the price because they got all this supply they can't get rid of. Right. So that's how that example works. All right. And then if you had a new tax on the production of a purple tie, okay, then well, what's going to happen? It's more expensive to make, so people don't want to make it as much. Okay, so the quantity that's being supplied is going down, which actually then means the price will go up. Right, is the whole idea there. Okay, okay, and I think that's nope, not the last one. This might be the last one. All right, so as the popularity of purple ties goes across the area, new producers are going to enter the market. Meaning, if you start selling a whole bunch of this thing, then more people are going to want to do it because they think they can make money. So there's more competition. So there's more supply, which means that given if the demand stays the same, the price will actually go down. So you sell more of a thing, more people want to do it, more people are doing it, there's more supply, so prices get cheaper. Okay. All right. So that is basically the supply and demand charts. There's one more here. So purple ties are named must have. So more people are wanting to have them. Okay. Increased demand. Right. Then at the same time, there's new manufacturing that makes it cheaper to make, so there's going to be more supply. Okay, so you can actually have both of them moving at the same time. So the original price was here, the increase in demand would actually move it here, but then the increase in supply moves it back to here. Okay, so there's both an increase in supply and demand, so the price actually stays the same there. Okay, all right, so last concept here, and then we'll be done. All right. So the word elastic. So if you hear the term elastic, you might think of how a rubber band is stretchy, right? They stretch and then they come back together, right? So the law of demand tells us that when the price of a good or a service rises, people buy less of it. But when the price of good or service falls, people buy more of it. But it doesn't tell how much more or less people buy. Okay. So for some things, the quantity demanded stretches, goes up and down a lot when price changes. Okay. For others, it's a less stretchy, less elastic. Okay. So an elastic demand is going to be when it changes a lot based on prices. An inelastic, so in, the prefix, right, means not, right? So a demand that is not elastic, it doesn't stretch. Okay. So here's the deal on this. And I did put at least one on the quiz on Friday on this. Is that luxury items, the things that you don't have to have for life, are very elastic in their demand. Okay. For example, my family, we've been deciding we want to save some money this year. Okay. So we haven't been out to eat. So you would say our demand for eating out at restaurants is very elastic. If something changes, we won't go out to eat. Now, what's inelastic is our demand for food at the grocery store, right? So we're going to go buy food regardless. So stuff like, say, pasta, right? That's pretty inelastic, right? You know, cereal might be inelastic. I mean, to a certain extent, right? But things like toilet paper are definitely inelastic, meaning you might find a substitute product that's cheaper, like a store brand of toilet paper, but you're going to buy toilet paper. So if toilet paper is expensive, you're still going to want to wipe your hiney. So you're going to still buy toilet paper, right? Going on vacations on airplane flights is elastic because if you got a lot of money, you'll do it more. And if you don't have a lot of money, you won't do it, right? So the whole idea of elastic is the demand will change a lot based on the price. Inelastic is the demand doesn't really change based on the price, all right? Doesn't stretch. So basics and necessities of life are inelastic. You got to have toothpaste, right? That kind of thing. All right. Now, I've given you a lot of practice resources this week, several quizzes that I linked, and then this other kind of more interactive practice thing where you move the supply and demand line just to understand the effect of supply, demand, finding equilibrium prices, what the price is going to be based on a change in the supply or demand, and how those different factors go into play on that. That's what you're working on this week. So it's a very different sort of conceptual week than what we did the first couple of weeks. All right. You have one tutorial, but it's a long one. All right. And I remind you of the grading expectation. And then I certainly will be doing those practice things a lot. And there's also in the Edmentum tutorial, there's a lot of examples in there. And then I put out several ed puzzles so that if you think, man, I don't understand the way Mr. Carter explained it, I get it. Okay. So I put some other people on there on the ed puzzles to help you be able to hear these concepts explained in several different ways by several different people. Okay. All right. So that is kind of where we conclude there because I don't think most people can handle more than about 30 minutes of supply and demand at a time. And so I wanted to kind of make it kind of shorter there so you can go practice that yourself. So you'll have my examples to look back at. You'll have the ed puzzles to look back at. You have the Edmentum tutorials to look back at. And then you need to go practice, do the Edmentum tutorial, do the practice, make sure you're ready for the quiz on Friday. Okay. And with that being said, I think I'm done unless anybody's got any questions here. All right, then we are done, and I will see you guys on next Monday.